5:30 p.m. here in Lagos, Nigeria. Time for the world today. I'm Joke Rogers. Here's what's coming up. Israeli military retrieves body of the last hostage in Gaza, paving the way for the next phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan to get underway. Nipah virus outbreak in India triggers heightened screening measures at airports in Asia, plus more than 1,000 residents evacuated from their homes as rain triggers huge landslide in Sicily. Let's begin the world today. Israel's military says it has recovered the body of the last remaining hostage in Gaza, a move that clears the way for the next phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan. The body is that of Master Sergeant Ran Vili, who had been missing since the ceasefire with Hamas began in October. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu describes the recovery as an extraordinary achievement, saying Israel had fulfilled its promise to bring every captive home. This marks the closure to 843 days of trauma and hardship for those taken and their loved ones. The military says new intelligence over the weekend led troops to search a cemetery near Gaza City, close to the so-called Yellow Line, an area still under Israeli control as part of the ceasefire deal. Hamas armed wing says it provided mediators with information about the location. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt praised a huge foreign policy feat for the U.S. after the body of the final Israeli hostage in Gaza was confirmed to have been handed over, as she gave a press briefing in Washington, D.C.
One more foreign policy point I will point out, as you all saw, the last remaining body of the hostages, Israeli hostages in Gaza has been returned. This is a huge foreign policy feat for the President of the United States, for the State of Israel, and frankly for the whole world. The President made the impossible possible, and so it's great news for the President, for the United States, for our allies, and also for peace in the Middle East. And I understand that more than 20 new additional countries have also signed up to join the newly established Board of Peace with respect to the rebuilding of Gaza, which is another historic accomplishment for this president.
We'll get more on that in a moment. In the meantime, an outbreak of the deadly Nipah virus in India's West Bengal state is raising concerns across parts of Asia, with several countries tightening health checks at borders and airports. Thailand has begun screening passengers at 3 airports receiving flights from West Bengal, while Nepal is checking arrivals from Kathmandu Airport and along key land crossings with India. Health officials say 5 healthcare workers in West Bengal were infected earlier this month, with one in critical condition. Around 110 people who had close contact with them have been placed in quarantine. Nipah is a zoonotic virus, meaning it can spread from animals such as fruit bats and pigs to humans, and also from person to person. It has a higher fatality rate, estimated at between 40 and 75%, and there's currently no approved vaccine or treatment. The World Health Organization lists Nipah as a priority disease because of its potential to cause serious outbreaks. Across southern Africa, extreme weather is once again exposing the continent's climate vulnerability. Mozambique is battling deadly floods that have swept through communities, destroying homes, cutting off access to food and clean water, and forcing thousands to flee to higher ground. Rescue efforts are ongoing, but for many families, the immediate struggle is survival, with children, the elderly, and rural communities hardest hit. Emergency teams from around the world have rushed to the aid of those affected by severe flooding that has ravaged the southern region for weeks following heavy rains. Footage shows a South African helicopter delivering aid across the inundated region as part of life-saving operations. The Mozambican government has launched a nationwide emergency response amid the worst floods in the country's history. Rescue teams from Brazil, South Africa, the EU, and UK have reportedly joined emergency services. The floods have so far affected over 644,000 people across Maputo, Gaza and Sofala, with at least 52 people confirmed to have died.
So I'm a flight engineer on the Oryx. The Oryx, we call it the hope of Africa. It has a unique sound. Wherever it goes, it gives hope to all Africans. And what you saw today is giving hope for the little places we land. In small things, just loading off food or picking up people. And that's what it is.
Return to our top story now about Israel's military saying it recovered the body of the last remaining hostage in Gaza, a move that clears the way for the next phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan. That body is that of Master Sergeant Ranvili, who had been missing since the ceasefire with Hamas began in October. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu describes the recovery as an extraordinary achievement. Let's get more on that. Joining us now is Yoni Asher, relative to two Israeli Hamas hostages who were also released. Yoni, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Right. So the last Israeli hostage has been returned to Israel, albeit his body. You went through an almost similar situation as your relatives were also once held captive by Hamas. What are the emotions you went through after hearing about the latest recovery and the last body to be recovered?
I think that to hear that there are no hostages in Gaza no more, it's something that you can't believe that you are hearing it. I want to remind you that it lasted almost 15 years because we had soldiers that were kidnapped and their bodies kept held by Hamas since 2014. So definitely knowing that there are no hostages is something that I still can't process in my mind. We waited for this moment too long. And I hope that now a process of healing in our society will start, and also a process in Gaza that affects the whole region. So I hope that this is the opening sign for this process.
Right. You were lucky your family made it out alive, though later fractured. What did you learn from your family about their experience with Hamas?
I was blessed, definitely. At the beginning, like you probably remember, Hamas kidnapped little children, babies. My experience was very uncertain, unclear. The first days were chaos. Nobody knew anything. The whole thing was very blur. Nobody had information, intelligence, nothing. I experienced ransom requests for people that pretend to be kidnappers themselves or maybe connected to the kidnappers. They wanted money. I was witness to a lot of psychological battle with videos that were released and rumors all the times that citizens is about to be released, hostages, but it was false. It happened like 10, 15 times during almost 2 months in my time. And it was hectic, in that way. It was very intensive. And like I hoped, and like I said that it was the reasonable thing to do, that Hamas would return the babies as fast as they can, because this situation will not last long. They will not survive. that's no child can survive in these terms for long term.
Right, and the Israeli government is looking to reopening the Rafah crossing now that the remains of the last hostage has been returned. How do you and others affected by what happened on that day, on October 7, feel about this? Do you agree with the government's decision?
I think it's complicated. Some parts I agree, some parts I don't. I think that the process in Gaza needs to be similar to the process that we saw after World War II. If you talk today with the Hitler Youth, their organization that Hitler made for youth, for teenagers, today they speak and they are 80 and 90 and they described how they were raised. So the process that was made in Berlin since 1949, 1946 maybe, I think that needs to be a similar process. Education that is totally new, because you need to understand, once Hamas controlled all of the citizen services, he also controlled the education. So for 18 years, they raised a generation like the Hitler Youth, unfortunately. But the good news that, like it happens in there in Berlin, it can also happen here. But the leaders need to show courage and to show that they have a long-term plan to make it happen.
Right. Yanni, I must thank you again for your time on the program, and I know how hard that must have been, reliving that experience, but I'm sure that it's a happy time, be that as it may, in Israel, that the last hostage is now home, even though it's the body that was brought home. Right.
We fought for this moment for a long time, and thank you for your kind words. And I want to wish all the families best of health, mental health, physical health.
Right.
And thank you for having me.
Right.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again. Yeah. Let's move along. A large section of a cliff has collapsed on the Italian island of Sicily after days of heavy wind and rain brought by Storm Harry. Thousands of people have had to be evacuated as well. Around 4 kilometers of land gave way near the town of Nasemi, forcing more than 1,000 residents to evacuate as a precaution. Italy's Civil Protection Department says everyone living within the danger zone has now been moved to safety. There are no reports of deaths or injuries, but aerial footage show homes, roads and vehicles badly damaged, with some buildings left teetering close to the edge of the cliff. The landslide began on Sunday and continued into Monday, with local officials warning the ground remains unstable. Geological surveys are now underway as authorities work to assess the damage and decide whether it's safe for residents to actually return. Meanwhile, search and rescue operations are ongoing in West Badong Regency, West Java, after a landslide swept through Pasir Kuning and Pasirilangu villages, leaving at least 25 dead and dozens still missing. The affected areas, emergency personnel are clearing debris with excavators, carrying bodies and working alongside residents who have joined in the search. Sesi Sutisna, a resident whose home was buried, described the chaos, adding that for 2 to 3 days, villagers had helped the rescue team dig through soil and water, hoping to recover all victims quickly. Officials providing an update on the recovery efforts say 34 bodies have been found. Indonesia's National Search and Rescue Agency continues to coordinate with local authorities to recover victims, assist affected families, and assess the full scale of the damage in the aftermath of the disaster. And still to come. Visitors dive into living dream of the ancient immersive digital street at the Inspire. Welcome back. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Maria Bird received an update on the current state of affairs in Minnesota from the president of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in St. Paul, Minnesota, Nipah Presley. This comes as the state of Minnesota is dealing with the third shooting by an ICE agent. Take a listen.
Ms. Priestley, we thank you so much for joining us. As the NAACP president for St. Paul, the Twin Cities have been in the midst of quite some challenge over these last few weeks. Just give us a little bit of insight as of what's happening today. We know this past weekend there was another killing, and obviously that has broke out additional protest. We are now at the beginning of the week, and so work begins again. How is the community responding to this unfortunate loss of life?
Well, at this moment, the community, the citizens are really, really outraged. They just can't believe it, that here's another senseless murder of someone that's been labeled as a terrorist by the federal government, if you listen to them and hear them. But no, he was just being a person out there exercising his rights, and he really had a passion for doing community work, and really was concerned, from what I've learned from listening to his father, that he wanted to do something and he wanted to be there to help out in any way. And helping out is what caused him his life. Helping somebody that the ICE had pushed down, because it was slippery out there, and he was trying to help this person up. I can't tell you if they were female or male, but he was trying to help this person up, and they kept kind of slipping around. He couldn't help get her up, so I guess the police, or the police ICE, thought he was doing something to affront them. But long story short, it just got out of hand, and they just brutally and unjustly murdered a fine young middle-aged, to me they're young, because I'm up a little seasoned, so they're young to me, young man that did not deserve to die. And so like I said, it's just enraged our communities and made the tensions amongst citizens even higher. And again, the fear is insurmountable in the community, but people are still not afraid, and they are still out there doing various activities in response. And when you talked about children, our St. Paul Public Schools and Minneapolis schools have set up e-learning again. They're giving parents and caregivers the opportunity to either you could still send your child to school, because they put in place several safety measures, but they are offering people, families, to do e-learning from home. And I think actually it's temporary, and it's supposed to maybe run through February. And I'm just thinking that our school system and our superintendent, Dr. Stanley, will probably reassess that, because you're right, kids are fearful. Not only are they fearful, they're being traumatized. I mean, they are traumatized. Some parents' stories are you just feel for them, because these children have been traumatized by seeing what has happened and hearing to what's happened to their friends. Because even my grandchildren, some ICE came to their school.
Wow.
And wanted to take a child away from the school. In fact, these young people are going to have PSD
Yes.
when it's all said and done. So we really have to think about not only protesting and doing acts of civil disobedience. We really have to think about how we're gonna help people heal.
You mentioned the children, which I think is so important, and kind of with the school systems. This also means it's impacting everyday business, so everyday life. If children are online school, e-learning, that means businesses. Tell us a little bit about those businesses and things that are stopping that aren't. We know the schools are moving to online learning. What are some of the other everyday practices that have been put to a stop or have been limited to some extent?
Well, for the businesses, they are shutting their doors, but they are also keeping their doors open. But I don't, for what they're doing is, well, no, there are resources out there that are in place now, since the businesses are having the issues. A lot of the loans that they have, if they owe loans, they're deferring them and helping them think through what will be their new terms. So I really give kudos to the banks. And what I just recently heard, which is just awesome, corporations, banks, financial institutions are coming together, and now are coming together, they're joining together to really address the financial burden that businesses are having.
And finally, at Incheon's Inspire Entertainment Resort in South Korea, art is not only displayed but also serves as a platform for visitors to move through, creating an immersive experience. Enthusiastic guests stroll along the resort's Aurora streets, an innovative immersive entertainment avenue canopied by a 150-meter-long LED display showcasing surreal imagery, captivating tourists with large-scale digital art and fantasy scenes. Floor-to-ceiling LED screens surround visitors with fast-moving light, color, and abstract landscapes, transforming the main hall into a fully enveloping visual tunnel. Visitors enter a ballroom where champagne bottles pop and fireworks light up the ceiling, then are transported to a palace and an underwater Christmas scene. The sequence culminates in a rapid, visually driven journey through nature and imagination, created entirely with light and sound. The resort currently showcases the Aurora Express train journey, taking guests on a fast-moving digital adventure through light, color, and abstract landscapes that can be perceived by each of their own unique narrative. That's the world today. Thank you for watching. I'm Jokia Rogers.